In the shining halls of the Varelian palace, where crystals floated in the air and walls glowed with soft light, a royal voice echoed, announcing the sacred ritual. Let the bonding ceremony begin. Nobles from across the galaxy had come. They wore golden robes, long crowns, and sharp eyes. All of them had one goal: to find a strong partner to bond with. Bonding was more than marriage. It connected minds, hearts, and even life energy. Only the best were chosen, but in one dark corner, alone on a floating silver chair, sat Princess Alira. She was the Empress's youngest daughter, but no one wanted to bond with her. She was blind. Her legs were weak since birth. And worst of all, she had never shown any royal power. To many, she was a shame to the Varelian bloodline. Why is she even here? One noble whispered. She should be kept hidden, said another. This is not a place for broken things. Alira heard everything. Her sharp ears picked up every cruel word. Her face stayed calm, but deep inside, she was breaking. She wished she could disappear. Every day was the same: whispers, laughter, silence. When she entered a room, even her mother, the Empress, rarely spoke to her. Alira wasn't weak in her mind. She had dreams, thoughts, ideas. She read through sound maps and memory waves. But no one ever cared. And now, as the bonding ceremony began, she sat in her chair, hands folded, head bowed. Waiting for another moment of rejection, the Empress stood, tall at the center. Let those willing to bond step forward. She said. One by one, young Varelians stepped into the light. Glowing threads connected chosen pairs. Some smiled, some cried. All celebrated. When it was over, only one person was left: Princess Alira. Silence fell across the room. No one. The Empress asked, "None will bond with my daughter?" Heads turned away. No one spoke. Alira felt her throat tighten. Her hands trembled. She prepared to leave. She had no reason to stay anymore. And then, a new voice echoed from the back of the hall. "I will bond with her," said the voice. Everyone turned. It was a human, tall, rough uniform, simple brown hair, a small scar on his cheek. He walked with calm steps. "State your name," a guard demanded. "Commander Jace Carter, Human Defense Corps. I request to bond with the princess." The crowd gasped. "Is this a joke?" Noble hissed. "He's not even Varelian. Humans are animals. What does he want with her?" The Empress narrowed her eyes. "Why would you bond with a broken royal?" she asked. Jace looked straight at Alira. She could not see him, but she felt his presence like a warm sun. "She is not broken," he said. "You just never gave her a chance." Alira's lips parted. No one had ever said that, not even in secret. The Empress frowned. "This is sacred. You understand what a bond means? You'll be joined forever? No turning back." "I understand," Jace said. A moment passed. Then the Empress spoke. "Let the bonding begin." Two golden priests moved forward. They placed Jace and Alira in front of each other. A soft orb floated between their hands. Jace reached out gently. "May I?" he asked. Alira nodded. Their fingers touched the orb at the same time. At first, nothing happened. Then light exploded. Not from the orb. From Alira. Her body shook. Her legs twitched. Her blind eyes flashed with silver. The orb shattered into light particles, and Alira gasped. "I see something," she whispered. Jace held her hand tighter. Inside their minds, they were connected. Jace saw memories of Alira alone in her room, crying under stars, pretending she was flying. He felt her hunger for life, her pain, her brilliance. Alira saw Jace's battles, his scars, his kindness, his quiet grief, and both realized they weren't alone anymore. The priests fell back, shocked. Nobles stood frozen. The Empress stared. "What? What is this?" A silent pause filled the palace. Then Jace turned to them all. "She is more powerful than you think," he said. "And I will stand with her." For the first time in her life, Alira stood not in fear, but in light. The palace sky turned dark. That night, not from clouds, but from whispers in the high towers of Varelia. People talked. A human bonded with the broken princess. He must be Mador, playing some trick. The orb exploded. That has never happened before. Far below the shining towers, deep in the Temple of Light, the real ceremony was about to begin. The chamber was round, ancient, and quiet. Tall crystal pillars stood around a floating stone circle. Only 2 people were allowed inside, Lyra and Jace. Lyra stood slowly, her hands trembling. She still couldn't see clearly, but light shapes moved in her mind now. Since touching Jace, she had begun to feel the world differently. It was strange and frightening. She whispered, "Why did you choose me?" Jace smiled, standing across from her on the circle. "'Cause no one else looked at you the way I did." She tilted her head. "How did you look at me?" "Like someone who mattered." Lyra turned her face slightly, hiding her blush. No one had ever said such words. Not in her whole life. A deep humming sound began. The stone circle started to float. Light rose from the floor and wrapped around their feet. The final step of bonding had begun. "Are you ready?" Jace asked. Lyra nodded, even though fear grew in her chest. "Will it hurt?" she asked softly. "Maybe," he said, "but I'll be right here." She smiled. "Then I can take it." They both placed their hands on the glowing seal between them. It pulsed once, then again. Then suddenly their bodies lifted into the air. Light surrounded them. Memories poured out. Not just their own, but from the bloodlines of both species. Lyra screamed. She saw thousands of stars, wars, ancient rulers, secret powers locked inside the royal blood. She felt her body shake, her spine burn, her legs twitch. Jace saw the same. But he stayed focused on her. He reached through the bond, held her with his mind. "Stay with me, Lyra. You're not alone." Her eyes opened wide. This time, fully. Clear sight returned for the first time in her life. She gasped. I can see you," she whispered. Jace looked confused. "Me? You have a scar on your cheek," she said. "Your eyes are green." Tears rolled down her face. For years she had lived in the dark. Now, because of one human, she saw color. But that wasn't all. A wave of heat burst from her chest. Symbols lit up on her skin-old royal markings. They glowed with gold fire. The temple itself responded. Crystals shook. The floating stone cracked slightly, and the system voice echoed. Genetic seal unlocked. Lost line awakened. Jace frowned. "What does that mean?" Lyra's hands trembled. "It means I'm not just a princess. I'm something older, something dangerous." The light dimmed. They floated back to the ground. The seal vanished. Silence. Then, a sound of steps. The priests returned. One of them gasped at Lyra's glowing skin and straightened legs. "She's healed." Another priest whispered, "No, she's changed." The temple doors opened. The Empress walked in, her face cold but curious. She looked at her daughter and paused. Lyra stood tall without her chair. Her blind eyes had color. Her back was straight, her body steady. The Empress whispered, "Impossible." Jace stepped forward. "We bonded." "You did more than bond," said the Empress. "You triggered something lost for generations." Lyra raised her chin. "I will learn to use it," she said. The Empress narrowed her eyes. "Then you must train." "But no, if you fail, I will not protect you." "I never asked you to," Lyra replied. Jace smiled proudly. The Empress turned away. "Very well. Your first trial begins tomorrow." As the doors closed, Lyra leaned close to Jace and said, "Thank you for not giving up on me." He nodded. "I didn't save you. You saved yourself." But deep in his mind, one thought burned. If she can unlock this kind of power, what else lies hidden inside her? He didn't know yet, but the galaxy would find out soon. The stars outside her window were silent, but inside, Princess Alira's mind, there was a storm. It had been 3 nights since the bonding. 3 nights since she walked without help, saw her reflection, and spoke without fear. But now, strange, dreams haunted her. In them, she stood on a black moon, alone. A voice called her name, not from behind, but from within. Symbols flashed in the sky, old Varelian runes. And each time she reached for them, a pulse of fire raced through her chest. Tonight, that dream changed. This time the black moon spoke back. She woke with a scream. Jace rushed in, holding a light stone. "Another vision?" he asked. Alira sat up, breath fast. "It spoke to me. A place, full of weapons, voices. It wants me to come." Jace sat beside her. "A trap." "No," she said. "It felt like home, like something buried in my blood." That morning, Alira asked the palace archives to open her family's ancient records. The librarians hesitated, but when she raised her hand, glowing with golden marks, they obeyed. She and Jace entered the memory chamber, where knowledge floated in glowing rings. She asked, "Show me the lost line, the forbidden blood." The chamber reacted instantly. Old warnings appeared, locked by royal command. "Sealed after the War of Blood Moons." Alira touched the seal. Her bond mark lit up. Panned, the lock shattered. Dozens of files opened in the air. Jake read the line slowly. The 13th bloodline, removed from history. Princess Oralis, who bonded with an outsider and gained forbidden power. Alira's voice shook. She wasn't removed. She was hidden. As they searched, they found an old star map. It led to a moon called Eleran's Hollow. Alira gasped. "That's the place for my dreams." Jace looked at her. "We have to go." By nightfall, they had a ship ready. It was small, fast, and human-built. The Varelians laughed when they saw her board it. "Why does a princess fly a cargo craft?" one noble sneered, but Alira said nothing. "Power doesn't always wear gold." Jace piloted the ship. Alira sat beside him, eyes locked on the star map. As they entered deep space, the stars seemed to shift. The path was narrow, old, and unstable. They flew in silence. Hours passed. Then the moon appeared. Not gray, not lifeless, but black. Pitch black. It looked as if space itself had bent around it. No lights, no signals, just silence. "This is it," Alira whispered. As they landed, the ground shook slightly. Strange symbols lit up beneath the ship, matching the marks on Alira's arms. They stepped out. No air, but Alira could breathe. The bond protected them both. A huge door appeared in front of them, shaped like a spiral. It reacted to her touch and slowly opened. Inside, there was no dust, no decay, only light, floating machines, ancient weapons. A single throne made of dark crystal. Alira stepped forward. Suddenly a voice filled the chamber. Not from a speaker, but from the walls, the floor, the air. "Bloodline confirmed. Welcome, heir of the Hollow." The throne glowed. Alira touched it. A wave of energy slammed into her body. She fell. Her mind was pulled into a sea of memories. Visions of the War of Blood Moons, where one princess had unlocked a weapon so powerful, it destroyed 5 enemy planets in seconds. She saw herself, standing on that same battlefield. Then her body glowed. Her skin lit up with new markings. Silver joined the gold. Jace caught her before she hit the ground. "Alira, say something." She opened her eyes slowly and said, "I can hear every machine on this moon. I can speak to them." She looked up. "This place, it's mine." Jace looked around, stunned. "So what is it?" he asked. She smiled slightly. "A weapon. A forgotten one, built not to destroy, but to protect those who were once thrown away." Jace's eyes widened. "Like you?" She nodded. "Exactly like me." From that moment, Alira understood her. Purpose was bigger than revenge or respect. She had a gift no one else had, and soon, the galaxy would need it. The dagger hovered in mid-air only, inches from Jace's throat. but no one saw it because the attacker was invisible. It had been 1 week since Alira and Jace returned from Elrond's Hollow. A week since the royal court saw the once blind princess stand tall, her skin marked with ancient symbols, her eyes glowing with power. The Empress had allowed her to stay in the palace, but many nobles whispered in secret. She's dangerous now. She woke the old bloodline. She bonded with a human that alone is shameful. Alira didn't care. Her time hiding was over. She trained every morning, walked the palace without fear, and studied the moon's technology through a mental link that now lived inside her. Jace stayed by her side, always alert, always watching the court with sharp eyes. That's what saved his life. It started during a quiet dinner. Alira sat across from Jace in her chambers. She was smiling, something she didn't do often before. It was telling her about Earth's food when suddenly his body froze. He didn't move, didn't speak, but his hands slowly reached under the table. His voice remained calm. "Don't panic. Someone's here." Alira's heart skipped. She didn't ask how he knew. She trusted him completely. He whispered again, "Something just disturbed the air beside me, and now it's gone." She stood quietly and walked toward the wall as if going to stretch. In reality, she reached into the air. Her palm met something. Not soft, not air, but skin cold and scaly. She screamed. Jace jumped from his seat and tackled the invisible shape. His human strength slammed it to the ground, revealing a creature in half-cloak, a mercenary. Its arm had a built-in blade. It aimed for Jace again, but Alira raised her hand. The symbols on her arms lit up, and the walls of her chamber reacted. Metal panels snapped shut. Lights changed color. A wave of energy struck the assassin and knocked him unconscious. Guards stormed in seconds. Later, when they saw the creature on the floor bleeding from the head, they froze. Who sent this thing? Jace demanded, but the creature didn't speak it. Bit its own tongue and died. The next morning, the Empress stood in the grand hall with her daughter. "This is what I feared," the Empress said. "You've awakened enemies." Alira's jaw tightened. "No, you feared me gaining power." Whispers spread across the nobles again. But Alira didn't lower her voice. "I want a full investigation. I want to know who paid that mercenary. He didn't break into the palace on his own." Jace stepped forward. "And I want to know why your guards took 5 minutes to reach the chamber when they're stationed only 20 feet away." The Empress narrowed her eyes. "I allowed you to live under this roof because of your heritage," she said coldly. "But don't forget your place." "I haven't," Alira replied. "That's why I'm still Harand, not sitting on your throne." Das. Gasps filled the air. The Empress turned and walked away. That night, Jace patched up his wounds. A thin cut ran along his arm. Alira sat quietly beside him, watching every movement. "You almost died," she said. He smiled slightly. "Not the first time." She looked down. "It's my fault. It's the fault of those who still can't accept that you've risen." Jace stood. "We need to be ready. Next time they'll send more." She nodded. "Then we train harder." From that night on, the palace guards changed. But more importantly, Alira changed. She began to study more than just the moon's weapon systems. She tapped into ancient defense programs, linked her mind to surveillance drones hidden in the palace walls, and learned to control them with a single thought. She was no longer a weak princess waiting for protection. She was a protector, and Jace didn't treat her like glass. He trained her like a soldier. Their bond grew stronger, not just in power, but in trust, in closeness. Sometimes they didn't need to speak. A glance, a thought, a heartbeat. That was enough. And slowly, people began to notice. Whispers in the halls changed. She walks without help. She fought off an assassin with her mind. She's becoming a queen. But in the shadows, someone else was watching. A noble, a general, traitor. And he wasn't done yet, because in his private chamber, a map glowed. It showed the location of Elrond's Hollow, and he had already sent a fleet. The alarm was silent, but every ship in orbit felt it. A pulse from deep space. Ancient, cold, not a weapon, but a warning. Elrond's Hollow had been found in the royal war room of Varelia. Generals and nobles filled the long table.
Holograms.
Floated above them, maps, ship routes, enemy movement. Voices argued over each other. Fear filled the air. They're coming fast. We don't have enough warships ready. Who gave the Hollow's location away? The Empress stood at the head of the table, silent but tense. Her gaze moved to the doors waiting. Finally, they opened. Princess Alira stepped in, wearing a dark silver suit linked to the Hollow's systems. Golden lines glowed along her arms. Behind her walked Commander Jace, face calm, posture sharp. The room quieted instantly. A noble stood up in protest. She has no place in this room. She's not a tactician. She's the only reason we still have that moon, Jace snapped back. Sit down. The Empress raised a hand. Let her speak. Alira stepped forward, eyes scanning the map in the air. 24 ships, Veldari class, fast high firepower. No ground forces. This is not an invasion, she said. It's a hit-and destroy mission. They want to erase the Hollow before anyone else can use it. One general scoffed. And how do you know this? Alira raised her hand. The map changed, instantly zoomed and highlighted key points. Because the Hollow is alive, she said, and I'm still connected to it. A pause. You mean it's sentient weapon? Another voice asked. Yes, Alira replied. It chose me, and if we lose it, we lose more than a battle. We lose the last defense against an empire. That doesn't want peace. They want to erase what I've become. The Empress looked at her daughter. Then what do you suggest? Alira nodded once to Jace. He brought up a new plan on the screen. Let them arrive, Alira said. We won't meet them in open space. We'll let them enter the Hollow's orbit, Jace added. Then we strike from behind. Trap them. Between our ships and the Hollow's core weapons, a general frowned. Too risky. Alira looked directly at him. What's more risky? She asked. Trusting an ancient power that woke only for me, or letting fear lead you to defeat? The room fell quiet again. The Empress stepped forward. Let the princess lead the counterstrike, she said. If she fails, she will not return here. Alira's face didn't change. Then I won't fail. Hours later, Alira and Jace stood aboard a fast cruiser. It wasn't fancy, but it was fast, strong, fully connected to the Hollow through Alira's bond. As the ship moved through the stars, Jace checked the weapon systems. Alira stood still as closed her mind. Reaching across space, she felt the Hollow like a heartbeat. She could see its chambers, its engines, its weapons waiting to awaken. I'm coming, she whispered, in deep space. Enemy ships appeared like dark ghosts. The Veldari fleet was fast and merciless. Their commander stared at the black moon. From his throne. Target. Eleran's Hollow, he said. Fire when ready. But just before the first blast hit the Hollow, woke up. Giant panels opened. Energy shields activated. Turrets hidden inside the moon's shell rotated to face the enemy. Then, Princess Alira's voice echoed across the fleet. This is Alira. Of the 13th bloodline, leave nor be destroyed. The enemy commander laughed. A girl with scars and human lovers? Fire. But before the missiles reached the moon, Alira raised her hand from her ship, and the Hollow responded. A single beam of golden blue. Energy exploded from its core. 3 enemy ships vanished in a second. Jace gave the command. Now, from behind the Veldari fleet, the human Varelian strike force arrived. It was a trap. Enemy ships turned to slow. Missiles struck from 2 directions. Hollow's ancient weapons cut through shields. Like paper, Alira stood in the center of her ship, glowing with light. She moved her fingers like a conductor, guiding the moon's energy through her thoughts. It wasn't a battle, it was a massacre. When the last enemy ship fell, silence returned to the stars. The Hollow's core dimmed, resting once more. Jace turned. To her, you were brilliant. Alira looked out the window, eyes filled with power. No, she said. We were. But far away, on another world, someone was watching the battle replay, a figure in black armor, and he whispered, the girl. has become a threat. He tapped a screen, and an army began to move. Asterisk, the moon bled light like a wounded beast. Eleran's hollow, once silent and sleeping, now trembled under the weight of something darker. It wasn't just a fleet this time. An empire was coming. Alira stood alone inside the hollow's heart chamber. Golden circuits pulsed beneath her bare feet. The ancient systems had accepted her, trusted her, but tonight even they were afraid. The hollow whispered through her mind, "They are too many. They bring weapons that should not exist. Even I cannot fight alone." Alira opened her eyes. She understood. This was no longer just her fight. Above the hollow, the black of space, came the soundless flash of thousands of engines. The Zarnath Empire had arrived. Their warships stretched across the stars, like a wall of fire. Their capital ship alone was 3 times larger than Varelia's palace. Inside it sat Lord Regan, the warlord who had once burned 7 planets in a single week. He pointed toward the moon and said only one word: "Burn." Jace stood at the edge of the hollow's hangar, pulling on his armor. It was human-built, light, fast, and deadly. Around him, Varelian defenders prepared. Two-most had once doubted Alira. Now they followed her. "She's the only reason we're still alive," one soldier muttered. "She commands the hollow like it breathes her name," said another. Jace watched them proud. Then he turned as Alira approached. She wore armor fused with the hollow's, tech dark, silver glowing lines, no helmet. Her eyes didn't need protection anymore. They burned with purpose. "They're coming," she said. He nodded. "Then let's remind them why you were never meant to be thrown away." The battle began like thunder. Zarnath bombers descended first, faster than expected. The hollow's outer shields held for minutes, then buckled. Fires lit the craters. But Alira stood inside the command ring. Her arm stretched out. "Release the archengines," she said. The hollow obeyed. Massive gates opened under its crust, long lost. Weapons emerged, silent, ancient. Glowing with the star's own fire, bolts of energy shot into space, taking down entire squadrons in a single breath. Still, Zarnath pushed forward. They landed troops on the surface. Thousands. Jack led the counterattack. He and a squad of mixed fighters met them on the plains. Blades clashed. Guns roared. The hollow's walls rose and fell, moving like a living fortress, protecting the humans and Varelians who fought for it. Alira's mind stayed calm. She was everywhere, guiding the defenses, building shields, tracking every heartbeat in the hollow. But then the signal came. From deep inside the Zarnath flagship, something activated. A massive drill weapon launched. It wasn't meant to destroy. It was meant to break into the hollow, to tear out its heart. Alira's vision blurred. Pain hit her chest. The hollow screamed through her thoughts. "They seek my core. If they reach it, I die. You with me?" Alira turned to her guard. "Send Jace to the core. I'll hold the line above." "But your highness," the soldier protested. She didn't listen, because in her mind, Jace already knew. Jace raced down glowing halls toward the hollow's center. The walls moved aside for him. Guiding him like blood through a vein, he arrived. Just in time, the Zarnath drill had pierced the outer shell. Enemy soldiers poured in. Jace raised his rifle and fired. It wasn't just war anymore. This was personal. He fought like a storm. For Alira. For every moment she had been mocked. For every second she had believed she was less. He would not let this moon fall. Above, in orbit, Lord Regan stood in his command tower watching the chaos. "Prepare the planet burner," he said. "Let her taste what I gave her ancestors." Alira rose above the hollow on a lift of light, stepping onto a floating platform that reached for the stars. She could see Regan's ship, could feel its weapon charging. She looked up and whispered, "Then I'll give you something you never expected." She lifted both hands and unlocked the hollow's last power. The sky split open. A massive winged form rose behind her. The hollow's true body. Not just a moon, but a celestial war form. Half machine, half living energy. It obeyed only her, and it would die only with her. "Target the flagship," she said. The warform's chest opened and fired a beam so bright it tore space like paper. The flagship cracked in half. Lord Regan's scream never reached. The stars' silence returned. Not peaceful silence, but the silence of victory, of breath held, of a moon that had survived, and of a princess who was now something more. The stars watched in silence, not with judgment, not with fear, but with awe, for they had just witnessed a forgotten rune rise like a god. And a once broken girl turned the tide of war. The battlefield was quiet now. Ships burned in the sky like distant candles. The surface of Eleron's hollow was covered in scars-deep craters, shattered armor, broken weapons. But within that destruction stood Alira, unmoved. Breathing slowly, she had not fallen, she had not run. She had become everything they said she never could. And she had done it not to prove them wrong. She had done it to protect the one person who believed in her from the very beginning. Jace. She whispered she didn't feel him in her mind. Anymore, her heart froze. She turned and ran limping slightly through smoke and ash into the hollow's core. Jace lay beneath a collapsed support beam. Blood dripped from his forehead. His armor was cracked. One eye was nearly shut, but he was alive. He saw her through the dust and smiled weakly. "About time you got here." She dropped to her knees, tears falling freely. "You idiot," she whispered. "You promised you'd stay with me." "I did stay," he said, coughing. "I just took the harder path." She laughed through tears. She placed her hand over his chest, and the hollow responded. The ground glowed beneath him. His wounds began to close. Energy poured into his body like warm light. "You linked me to the hollow," he realized. She nodded. "It trusted you, because I do." Back in the Varelian capital, the Empress watched the battle reports. She had expected a broken moon, expected a dead daughter. Instead, she saw the face of a warrior princess broadcast across every planet. Crowds in Varelia City. Streets dropped to their knees. The voice of the people rose like thunder. "Alira, Alira, Alira." Air returned to the palace. Not as a shadow, not as a burden, but as a symbol. She entered the grand hall with Jace beside her, and this time no one looked away. She didn't need a cane, didn't need help. Her legs were strong. Her back was straight. Her head was held high. The Empress stood from her throne. "Princess Alira," she said, "I brought honor to our name." Alira didn't bow. Instead, she said, "I came not for your approval. I came because the people chose me. And now I choose my path." The nobles shifted uncomfortably. Alira turned to them. "You cast me out. You called me weak. You turned your faces when I asked for help. But a human saw what none of you did." She reached for Jace's hand. "This man saved me, not because of my blood, but because of my heart. And today, I name him not just my protector, but my partner, my bondmate." Gasps spread through the hall. Some smiled. Others scowled. The Empress stepped forward slowly. She looked at Jace. "You've changed her." Jace looked back calmly. "No, I only gave her space to become who she already was." The Empress nodded once, then stepped aside and placed the royal circlet in Alira's hands. The people outside cheered as the announcement echoed across the stars. "All hail Princess Alira of the 13th bloodline, heir to the Hollow, guardian of the ancient flame, and bonded to the first human of Varelia." That night, the stars felt warmer. Alira stood on the palace balcony, looking into the sky, her hand resting in Jace's. "Do you think they'll ever stop fearing me?" she asked softly. Jace smiled. "Maybe, but if not, let them fear you for the right reasons." She turned to him. "No, let them remember that the girl they threw away," she leaned forward, "saved them all." They kissed under the stars, not as soldier and princess, not as human and alien, but as two souls who dared to bond when no one else would. And in that moment, the galaxy felt hope again.